It is not. What's the matter?
We didn't record any of that.
Are you serious? The podcast is starting right now.
Yeah, we just started it. Welcome to Quantum Bombs, baby.
All right, well, that's good. We got warmed up.
Well, we're only 20 minutes in. God dang it. Start off with a good bomb. That is a perfect intro.
Bombs.
Welcome, everybody, to our very first podcast. On today's episodes, we are going to go over Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, a documentary that explores the top secret world of our government's involvement in the research into aliens and their existence. But wait, it's not your normal UFO documentary. This one takes a twist when it explores the science of consciousness, and it shows you a group of organized people who gather together in meditation circles who are able to summon the aliens and communicate with them. What is their message and what do they want us to know? We'll discuss it in the podcast. We then pose the question, if aliens aren't enough to scare people into 1984's Orwellian ways, then what would be? That leads us into the discussion of the Ukraine war and the military-industrial complex, which may or may not even be constitutional, which lastly, we then discuss how our Second Amendment was worded. All coming up on today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Let's jump into it. Oh, yes. We just spoke for 20 minutes without recording sound. It's the perfect takeoff for our first podcast.
I actually wanted to propose an idea that links the origins of Bitcoin to aliens, and it wouldn't make any sense in context now that we don't have everything that we had just said.
This time we'll give a better context to the documentary.
This past weekend, Beth introduced me. Had been told to her by Russell, a friend of hers.
Russell's my brother. Keep going. Russell gets the credit for this.
Well, anyway, it was Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. And there's tons of alien stuff out there, but I sat down. It was a 2-hour documentary. I guess you call it documentary.
Free on YouTube. Don't pay for it. It's free. It's out there.
You might have to watch a commercial. But I just found it fascinating. And I think what we had said was almost no one denies that aliens exist, but this documentary kind of gave them a relevance to us, which I liked.
Well, for those that don't know, it's worth pointing out that the Pentagon now admits that there are what terms do they use?
Well,
UFOs?
they went pretty far. So
off-world aircraft, something like that,
not of this world.
So,
and then they went off the chain and said that people are getting burned by radiation and getting pregnant from aliens.
God, yeah, I forgot about that. The pregnant thing. Yeah, tinfoil hat not required. Like, we can talk about aliens now.
Getting you knocked up.
But it was interesting because after I watched this documentary, just for the
do you really think
just for fun, I went and watched Contact. Remember the old Jodie Foster movie Contact?
Yeah.
And it had they sent down the information, and you got the earthy crunchies who are looking for them are all thrilled, but then there's the guy from the Department of Defense who's all about, what if they're here to take us over? What if this thing we're building is going to destroy us? So there's always going to be that element of
social conditioning.
Well, yeah. I mean, most people are going, wait, these are our friends. Let's communicate with them. Meanwhile, those in power are going to want to make them a threat.
Now, I don't want to join that side, but there is a thread throughout all of existence. I mean, how did it work out for the natives when we showed up on boats? And Stephen Hawking made a good point.
That's projection, man.
Oh, projection.
That is projection.
It's
humanity. You think they're going to behave like us?
No, I know.
Certainly hope not.
So I'm starting there. Okay, so I'm starting there because that's what I know. I like to start with, I know this, and then work out. And then sometimes you're like, well, that's not the same. But Stephen Hawking did say he didn't think that it would be too smart to put a beacon out there in kind of like a little, like a shiner. If you go fishing, you pull it through the night, in the water, it's beacon, and then a big old bass comes up. There's probably a lot of friendly fish that watch that go by, but eventually a bass eats that thing. I'm not on that side. I'm just saying for discussion purposes, let's say there are aliens, okay? And the Pentagon says, hey, there's aliens. And let's say you are just waking up to this in life. You got the news, and every movie, well, not every movie, but most movies you've seen, aliens are scary, which is, they talk about this in the thing that's programmed, right? They do it on purpose to scare you. So you've got that, and then you got people telling you, hey, they're friendly. And you got to, make up your mind, because either you can communicate with these things and be friends with them, or you're joining the resistance.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I think people are it's going to be like the same with, honestly, hate to put everybody, oh, well, we all do it, stereotype and put each other in a box. It's just going to be the same as COVID. People that live with fear-based during that are going to be fear-based of the aliens, maybe a little bit of layover. But I like to bring things into context. The documentary is not a normal UFO alien documentary. It's, I think, honestly, actually, on a friend of mine that's also a producer like myself, I was completely like annoyed with the way it was produced because there was no organizational to it. But if I had to try to put a structure to it to explain to you what it's about, it's not your normal UFO documentary. It first goes through the government's involvement and how they've hired these guys throughout the years. And they basically took all their data that they've reported back over 30 decades to all the major governments and flip-flopped it to, oh, the aliens are bad and they want to like invade us, or I don't know, all these weird stories that you've heard. But really the data they're providing is we are able to communicate with them. We've learned how. They're completely peaceful. They're they're interdimensional beings that they're photographing and seeing. Then it goes and switches into the part that kind of changes the documentary, not what you expect, but goes over everything that we are starting to learn now about quantum physics and consciousness and the science of consciousness, even down to the point that a lot of people talk about this, like in prayer groups and meditation groups. Once you change 1% of whether it's a population or even an organism or any type of collective being, it has a shift. And they're telling you this because at the end of the documentary, the third part goes into organized groups, social groups, which you can download the app even, that meditate together to call the aliens, who then show up and communicate with them. And in even one rare case, they've healed them. And then also, most importantly, my favorite part of the whole documentary is the end sentence, which is like millions across the world for X amount of years now have successfully had the meditation groups communed with them, and not one single human has ever been harmed. And of course, the point of the documentary is to let you know that the government's narrative is that they're dangerous and bad and fear, fear, fear. And I guess this goes back to the original point of why we're talking about this, which is Matt said, well, June 2020, when we were 3 months into COVID, the Pentagon let out the obvious, like, okay, there are now aliens and crafts not of this world. And then recently it goes back to the even weirder things that they've been saying. So the government says aliens are real. No one cares.
That's
I think
what's
it's
so
because we're in
wild.
an information age.
So they say they're real, but a potential threat as well,
which
should increase their budget as opposed to if they're
Space
not.
Force. We got to have a Space Force.
Yeah.
Well,
So
have they said they're a threat, or they just
that's the
acknowledge they're
narrative.
real?
That is absolutely the narrative that they want to establish. Yeah.
Yeah, which is sad because
I said potential. They're a threat. They're a potential threat. So we don't know what they are, but they definitely are a potential threat.
Well, they are a potential threat. I mean, but you have to put them.
Okay,
But
no,
they
I'm
might
just saying,
heal my
you need-
catheter problem too, though. So I think we should commune with them.
Well, hang on,
course.
but like, how could we ever think that something has the ability to get here to our solar system, and then we have any chance of defeating it if they wanted to like cause us harm? Like if they have the technology to get here, they could just destroy everything if they wanted to. So like, I don't see the idea, like this idea that we're gonna like defend ourselves, like develop technologies to defend ourselves. Like they've gotten us beat already.
Well, yes, but then also the
changing
documentary
dimensions.
talked about how they have asked us to stop doing X, Y, and Z because it interferes with what they're doing. I mean, we do apparently have some, and they even said that we call them down, but yet every time they show up, it's a danger to them because we obviously must have some threat to them.
And they showed that footage of us shooting those missiles at them, and it dodged it. So one other thing Rex had said, I think when we misrecorded, is that it brought you hope. And yeah, I mean, the whole point of the documentary, because we're just talking about the destruction and going to war with them again, was that they actually are completely peaceful. I mentioned earlier that I think they're our ancestors, our grandma and grandpas, just their astral bodies of light that are coming to visit us. But yeah, I mean, they mean no harm. And I guess my encouraging you to go watch it is that it's the whole point of the message is that they're actually, in a weird way, either going to save the world through a higher level of consciousness of love and joy that we tend to forget that we have the ability to do, or it even roped in it's the part of the second coming of Jesus, right? I mean, it did mention that.
Well, I think they were saying that the warmongers were saying we're going to force the second coming of Christ. I think that's what they said.
I want to go back and address one thing, if I may. The whole thing about the movies, I don't think it's been like an agenda to program us to think aliens are hostile. I think that just makes a better movie plot.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
because again, you go to Star Trek, which has been actually, you know, there's always conflict, but it's all about, I mean, on the ship, there's all the aliens that are working together and the Federation. There's peaceful depictions, but I think again,
Wouldn't you love to work at Star Trek's Human Resources?
So if you had to just
fax your resume too.
pick the biggest reason we don't care that aliens are real, like why the world didn't do anything in June 2020 when we said they're real. Why,
We
why
numb
is it-
or what? This is the biggest
So
story.
my-
Either we're
my
numb
one
or
guess-
we'd already. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay because I just want to make it quick each. But my one guess is that we're in an information overload, so no one's paying attention to anything anymore.
Or no one.
Or they're
is-
living
no
in a
one-
bubble,
or
a
no one doubts
confirmation
it.
bubble. Everyone's doing their own, like, you know, they're listening.
What is it called? Echo chamber.
Yeah, they're listening to their echo chamber. But so one of you guys said that there's a video of us shooting a missile at the.
Yeah.
She
It's on
said
the
it,
video.
and I saw the video,
Okay.
and I wanted to bring that up. So you go ahead first. Then
Well,
I'll say
okay,
what-
so I mean, just the first thing I thought of is I had to look it up. There's a island, a North Sentinel Island called Sentinelese. Anyway, it's uncontacted tribe, and I've seen videos of people that are like on a boat trying to get there, and there's just like arrows whizzing by them. So no one's ever established. Modern civilization has not established contact with these people, and so these people just like shooting arrows at outsiders just reminds me. Well, that's just humanity as a whole to the aliens shooting missiles. We're like, hey, can we talk? And we're just shooting missiles at all these UFOs or whatever. So they're basically humanity's the same whether they're on a tiny island or like modern technology.
Well,
yeah,
I
as
vote-
you got intelligent, you're like want to say hi, but you're being shot at. But yet we're supposedly doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I've always said Shakespeare is relevant because human nature hasn't changed in 400 years, and the Bible's relevant because human nature hasn't changed in 4,000 years. So we're just
Why 4,000?
because that's when the Old Testament was written.
Okay, because the 2,000.
All right, New Testament 2,000,
Well-
Old Testament 4,000.
Okay, that's more of a Jewish angle, right?
Well, it's a Jewish book.
Well, the New Testament.
It's written by Jews.
The New Testament? I thought they thought Jesus was a fraud.
He was Jewish. Matthew,
Was, but
Mark, Luke, and John, they were all Jews.
Well, then what's the difference between your Christians that follow Jesus
yeah.
and the Jews?
Well, no, I'm not saying it follows that the Jews don't accept the Bible, but it was still written by Jews.
Oh, okay. The New Testament was?
That's definitely another podcast. Like,
We went from aliens to who wrote the Bible.
so I wanted to
Rex,
say
could
something.
you kindly safely stand up and just check that it's recording? And
Oh,
see that?
That's kind of important.
We don't
So
have a
we're gonna have
PA.
20 minutes
I
of
am,
just Russell and
I'm,
me?
Well,
I'm playing
the
about
audio's
20
the more important part
20 jobs
anyway.
here.
It's like my hour. 33 minutes.
Perfect.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
keep
We're
him
rolling.
at. Sorry, what
so
were you going to say?
in this video on the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, they show the part you're talking about where you see this object. It's night sky. There's an object floating across, and then it like turns and jets back the other way, and there's a streak that goes by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as a guy that
A
shoots
weapons
ordnance, rockets, bombs, blows things up. That looks more. Have you ever seen the deep sea footage when they're looking for a squid and there's like these little floaters on the screen, little things zip by and stuff like that? If you look at that really close, and I don't want to be in an echo chamber here where we all say, oh yeah, that show was, everything about it was right. If you see that little thing floating across there, it turns before the little deal zips and shoots back across and actually goes into the trajectory. If it had just kept going straight, it was going to miss that thing anyway.
I've seen this video.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
in the
it looks like okay, you're shooting at me, you're gonna miss me, but I'm gonna run back like a squirrel. I'm gonna run back across the road real quick
okay.
so you can miss me that way.
So maybe the aliens are indecisive.
Or maybe it wasn't aliens in that video. Maybe that wasn't the best thing to bring up, because here's what gets this happens
Yeah,
all the
some
time.
other
When you see a
flying
truth,
object.
okay, you see something that's true. If you don't present that exactly the best way you can, and you try to build it up with a little bit of fuzzy information on the side, and people see that and catch it, even though what you're saying is true, they begin to like
Discredit it.
hogwash
Yeah,
it.
Okay,
Yeah,
if
but-
this is false, what
yeah,
else is?
So thank you, Devil's Advocate.
So much of
but
that
I
right
don't
now.
know.
No.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their angle.
But devil's advocate is great. I mean, I always say I believe everything and nothing,
Yeah.
because I mean, all the subjects you bring up too. I will not discount the idea that we're talking to demons
Thank
here.
you, Rex. It helps I do love that you're so open when I talk to you about everything.
Well, no, absolutely, because who am I to say no? Because and also, but I'm also not going to say. I mean, you talk about the ridiculous. These aliens are here to be peaceful, but the people are going to say, the fanatics are going to say, "Oh, you're talking to demons." You could be. I mean, don't discount it completely. As improbable as that may seem.
Oh no, I'm totally with you on that because, again, going back to my idea of a demon, it's so subjective. Could be honestly the same thing almost as an angel. I mean, it's just a vibration away from evil and good.
I mean, there is evil.
Yeah,
I always say,
like,
because I always say,
vibrates one way, good vibrates one way. Yeah. Hey, they may be having a bad day.
Well, I mean, because we're talking about these old aliens, they may be, people have ancient aliens, there's all shows about them, that they may be what people were describing when they talked about angels and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, they talk about that all the time. I think I had a friend said, yeah, I quit watching that when they said that aliens were rustling up the dinosaurs, like cowboys.
Or rustling the
They were saying that the aliens were coming in and like roping dinosaurs, pulling them up in a ship. He said that's when he turned it off.
Really? Oh, well,
Yeah.
Well, they got 8 million seasons. I got to come up with something.
Yeah, right, like the Bigfoot. Eventually, they're going to
8
say,
seasons
"Hey,
of Bigfoot.
Bob, it's time to put the suit on, make an appearance." No, so I mean, and we had a TV show, so we saw the background of what goes on sometimes, and they do put the suit on once in a while. But I wanted to say before we get too far speculation, and because I think
rope us back to the fluffy tots that are supportive of aliens.
Well, we weren't recording earlier, so I wanted to get back to the structure we had, which was let's look at some facts and then extrapolate out. You talked about lots of planets. Mm-hmm. We know that's true, and by the sheer number of them, there has to be something out there that is like Earth. But then we also have to be open to the fact there could be life forms that don't require these conditions to live. Okay, so. And that's open for discussion, but that's a fact. There's a lot of planets, a lot of solar systems out there. We can look and see it, okay? And then the other thing was we were going to go around and talk about weird stuff we've seen, but apparently I'm the only one here that has – you don't have a story of seeing something weird?
No, not a significant one. No. But I want to say that your underlying assumption is that the origins of life, like even if you evolve from a microorganism, like even starting a microorganism is a mystery. So like your creationalists are going to would have a pretty good argument against, like, even if there's, like, you assume an infinite supply of planets, there's still, like, has to answer the question, how do you start the seed of life?
And I'm trying to find the bottom line here, right? There's a lot of planets out there. Is that true? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But where does it come from? I'm in agreement. I actually think that it's this interdimensional deal, and it's not at all, like, just a pile of goo and lightning happens to strike it and then it happens to take this form. I don't buy that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, we can all agree there's a lot of planets out there. There's a lot of places. But isn't it funny that one of the topics on this is who cares how many planets there are? They're interdimensional.
And they're ever-changing.
They're all over the place.
And then, again, going back to believing it's the astral heavens and then there's the causal heavens, it's all a creative idea matrix. So you could manifest and create a planet.
You could. Okay, so
thought. And these realms, and realms where time is different, everything. So yes, I'm 100% with you on that.
But what I wanted to go back to was the stories of seeing things. Everybody likes a story of seeing somebody.
I don't know. I felt like I saw plenty on that Close Encounter film. I was like, seen one, you've seen them all.
Well, I'm talking about us. I mean, when you can sit here and see somebody that you talk to every day, and they're like, "Yeah, I saw this." That changes things. And basically, out here on the farm, not far from...
Not out here. We're in a flying dirigible over New York City right now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. But back home on the farm, about 1988, when I was a kid, we were having parties at the creek, about 70 people. And it was about 11 o'clock, midnight, something like that. And somebody says, "Hey, there's something out in the field out there." What was that?
So sorry. Keep going.
You were censoring me.
No, I didn't.
Government worker. Yeah, so... Anyway, we all drive out into the pasture, and about 200 feet up in the air is this, look like about 3-4 orbs, really close together, changing colors, like pulsating blue, reds, yellow, and your sounds are great. So we're all standing there asking, what is this? And of course, at that time, I'm a kid, but I vividly remember this. So we couldn't see a lot of detail in it, and it just sat there. We all drove out. There's probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 of us out there in this pasture underneath this thing looking straight up. We don't feel anything, no wind blowing. We don't hear any sound. It's not a balloon floating. It is holding still in the sky, just changing colors, and with like 3-4 orbs like really close together. Like it seemed like we were underneath this round object that had these flashing lights under it, but just sitting there. And then you fast forward to my time out in West Texas. My dad is unloading stuff out of our Quonset hut out there in the desert, and we're about 25 miles north of Terlingua, Texas. So we're out in the middle of nowhere, and great Milky Way is out and everything. And Dad gets out and he goes, "Wait, what is this thing out here? It's moving." And like, "Come here and look at this." And you start thinking, well, it's probably a drone because it's behaving like a drone. You know how a drone would kind of move up and then hover a little bit and then move? Well, it was doing crazy stuff and changing colors. So happened to have a spotting scope. We're out there doing long range shooting. Scope, set it up. We looked through there, and it looked like blinking lights, like it was a drone. But it stayed up forever. And in fact, it came up many nights later, and we would look at it through this thing. And on the one particular night where we were really looking at it close, he set up his tripod, he gets his camera out, zooms in on this thing, and he takes a 30-second exposure. You would see a little tail behind the stars in the background, but this thing was berserk all over the place. So you know what I'm saying by a tail? If you take a long exposure picture and you move any bit, it causes a tail, a smear. The stars in the background had a tiny little tail, but the object we were looking at clearly was not one object, but about 4 or 5, and all over the place. And maybe there's some way you can throw this picture up later, but what that was, I have no explanation for. And I have seen the lights, what they call Marfa lights. And that's so common that the state put up a viewing area for people to go out and watch them.
I do think it's important you say your ranch is 200 miles. No, well, it's an hour's drive from Marfa, and so it's like prime for like alien viewing, light viewing, stuff like that.
It's a dark sky. It's actually designated a dark sky area.
Yeah, third darkest in Texas or the United States?
I don't know.
I can't remember. Well, we should.
So we should have an event, a CE5 event organized out there.
Absolutely.
I would love it. And Impresario Camp can host up to 16 people.
I think we should do like Russell's native people on the island, and next time you see it, shoot at it and see what happens.
So I thought about loading up the 50 cal, putting some tracer in it.
I was just, okay.
But I'm pretty sure it would miss it.
Real human.
So
we're human.
You didn't
We
even
just
have to
established.
go into your heart and send love to the aliens that are going to visit you there. In the desert, they're not discriminative. They're like, hey, I'll just come down to anybody.
He just walks around in coherence.
Yeah, Matt is high vibrational guy. You guys will get to know him. You'll feel it. He's a manifester.
Oh, thank you. But if you come out there, you almost guaranteed to see this thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. It's not a planet. It's not a star. Oh, and that's the other thing. We have the little app on the phone.
I'm going to talk to it.
You know the little app that shows the stars and plays that really sweet music?
Yeah.
Well,
Skyview or something?
Now we know it can heal whatever ails you, so...
Maybe that's why it's showing up.
Fix your catheter thing.
Yeah, I can't pee, so I need to pee, boys. But it did not show up on that.
You got to talk to it
that
in
little
your head.
Well, I'll try that next time. I'm like, hey, buddy.
First, you got to finish the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and guys, hold on. I do want to say, on that app, and we're going to get back to this, on that, there's an app you can download, and then you can contact local people around you that also want to meditate and commune with the aliens. And when I mean commune, meaning like first they fly down and you see them, and then what I love, which is most personal, which we all would do, is in the event that you do get the alien to show up, this little light orb or whatever, you immediately go back to fear and social programming. Very natural. It's exactly what I would do. And they told you to do exactly what I was thinking what you should do, which is, all right, I need your help. I'm a little bit scared of you. Help me, not be scared. And then you feel the resonance of peace coming over. And then you actually get to talk to them about what's important. Matt, on that hand, then should bring up his spina bifida and how he doesn't want to use a catheter anymore.
If the aliens would leave, they'd be like, are you sure there's nothing you want us to fix? I'd be like, I can't think of anything. I've got everything I need.
For those that don't know, the app is called CE5 Contact by Dr. Stephen Greer. And on that app, it has a community you can plug into to meet other like-minded folks and instructions on exactly how to summon the ETs.
And thank you, Russell. That was very professional, and we're gonna get better and better as we go. And by the way, Dr. Greer's Joe Rogan episode was never uploaded to Spotify. I wonder why. He did.
He did
guest
one?
episode 30.
30.
Well,
Was it
when
30?
he-
39 or
What-
339.
But when he
it's not
got,
on
they
Spotify.
nuked a ton of episodes
Yeah,
when
he
did
was
the.
one of the 40 that they didn't
Yeah,
take over.
So
censorship.
what is the
Interesting.
criteria to get censored from Spotify? Why did they pull those?
If you vote
Government
Trump,
threat.
Well, then Rogan would be gone.
Well, no, I don't think he.
No, it's not. I mean,
well, that was
seriously,
sarcasm, but
But
no,
it
like
was sarcastic.
This
but
is
yeah.
back to the facts, like the mini planets. Okay, it's
There
a
is-
fact that there are episodes that have been censored and pulled. So
Look,
why?
That
the
didn't
answer
even
to
come
your
over.
the answer to your question is if you disobey their terms, rules of service, or whatever, like, and they write those, if you actually go read them, it's so vague. It's all up to interpretation. Like there
someone
is
that
no
driver's
hate.
seat.
There is no hate speech allowed on Spotify. So who
What
decides?
is hate speech?
So can
And
I
guess what?
can
They're
I-
going to tell you what hate speech is, and you're going to find out when you get canceled.
I
So
got,
that's how it works. But that's not just Spotify. That's every
a perfect
Web 2
example
platform.
of hate speech. I was running an ad for my YouTube channel. Go and check it out. It's Beth Hagendorf on YouTube. For Mother Teresa's 15 Tips to Humility, and I've gotten it tagged for hate speech now 5 times. I even know the girl at the Google Ads. She's just like, I'm sorry, Beth. I watched your video. She even subscribed, the girl at Google Ads. But I'm like, yeah, it's obviously not hate speech. But
So why?
Mother
something about
Teresa?
humility is hateful.
Why? Why did it
Well,
get paid?
obviously it's not. These are bots that censor
bots.
this crap.
If you look,
Oh.
Yeah, same thing with Facebook. I'm big there. And same thing. Community standards. Oh, you violated them. What? They don't have to tell you.
if you look back through history and study all of history, and you look at the examples when people were being censored, the people doing the censoring were always the good guys.
Always.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Okay.
Sarcasm.
So,
Well, I mean, since we brought that up, I mean, since watching the movie, we are so well set up, even here, it doesn't have to be West Texas, to do some small, even if it's just us, not reach out, but I mean, at the farm. What are you grinning at?
I'm just looking at my life as a movie. And,
And now we're in
here
the
I am.
desert in a lawn chair.
I feel well. No,
summoning
I'm going to
ETs.
be at the lodge preparing the meal while you guys are out there because I feel like Cartman in South Park. I'm going to be counting my money. No, honestly, I think there is something. Yeah, there's something to that. But I'm looking at my life going, wow, here we are. We're in a bunker on a podcast talking about aliens. How did I get here?
a dirigible.
Well, blame the
overview.
Pentagon. We wouldn't, if you still had to have a tinfoil hat to talk about aliens, I don't think we'd be doing it. We probably would have avoided the topic, or it's kind of like, I mean, there's enough reason now we should be talking about it. Just
Oh,
like
we
you were,
should be.
yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. When it makes the news, when the Pentagon comes out and says what they said, because they're very careful what they let out. Trust me, they're watching those words
It's for a reason.
to say, yeah, we have a craft that is not of this world.
But you brought up the Werner von Braun video from the 60s. Did you not?
Werner von Braun.
I'm sorry, I said Werner. I said Werner.
You said Vander.
No, I said Werner.
Oh,
Werner.
sorry. I might, whatever.
Nazi schmatzi said Werner von Braun.
Yes, yeah. He said that the military-industrial complex was going to use the threat of aliens as their last attempt to conquer the sky. So it was, in the beginning, it's like the people over the ocean.
Russia.
Then it was going to be terrorists. Then it was going to be domestic terrorists, and then it was going to be an alien invasion that's imminent, and we need to ramp up our military might.
So they're laying the groundwork now.
They're laying well, yeah. According to this video, they are, and if you look around, I mean, it all, yeah, okay, I can see how that all plays out. If you think about it, what would get everybody together? It's like let's say in our community, we have people that are at odds with each other. But when it came time to go play the other town, everybody was on, our team, right? Mm-hmm. So we have these little squabbles with these other countries. But if I wanted to control this entire planet, I would. It's almost like, what did Hitler do? We need a scapegoat. I
Will
would say,
Smith and Independence Day.
Yeah,
Everybody pulled together.
Yep,
Exactly.
Globally.
But of course, they were
Yeah.
hostile.
Thankfully,
course.
though,
Yeah.
with the aliens, okay, so we split on COVID, obviously, for good reasons, meaning like half and half, right? Or we all know why we're divided with COVID. Thankfully, after the CE5 documentary, I see us being split with aliens. I'm definitely in the camp that's like, I'm just going to go be peaceful and meditate with them. You got good luck, guys, fighting them.
We saw what happened.
Well, all right. Well, no, absolutely. There will be the COVID ones who are going to be like, no, you're going to kill us all by communing with the
fear.
aliens. But yeah, it'll be just as divided.
That's why I'm just going to the
So-
desert and I'm pop popcorn and watch this.
Yeah, I mean, I think
What?
we got two cool things we're talking about right now. You brought up the military-industrial complex, but I do like this question will ongoingly come back to, which is obviously they need something big enough to make us to get the control, right? Like whoever, the New World Order, Bilderberg, whatever. There's so many names, Charles Schwab. They've got to get something. And also, the vaccines didn't work either. They always have to have these $1 billion things coming in, right?
Yeah,
and it's not going to. I mean, I don't know what it could be that they're going to try to get everybody on board, but I just don't see it working.
Some big event. I don't know, a big event where people lose their lives and they go, it's because of them.
I think
and then people freak out.
A better reason to have a narrative about aliens is to have a distraction for when the fiat currency collapses. Well, I mean, if you look back and realize that 100% of fiat currencies have failed and gone to zero,
it's going to work this time.
Well, yeah. So when our currency is worthless or getting worthless, it's always a painful transition into the next monetary system. So they can have, as this starts to happen, they can have the aliens to distract from. Just like no one really noticed the transition out of COVID and into Russia-Ukraine. It was like overnight they stopped talking about COVID. Anthony Fauci stopped coming on the news, and all we talked about was the war in Ukraine.
People noticed, it just didn't get any coverage.
I was so annoyed.
Well, we didn't nuke anybody either. So is the war going on still?
Is there less coverage on the war? I mean,
man, I live in my own world, but I
don't
just
watch
feel
the
like it
news.
went flat. It's like nukes didn't fly on the first day, and we have a short attention span. Like, we're not nuking. Okay, move on.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what happened was they rolled in fast and hot, and I think they wanted to take it like they took Crimea, because they didn't fire a shot when they took Crimea.
Right.
And so when they rolled in like that, and then they got stopped, and they actually fought back, and I think that maybe they didn't realize how many modern anti-tank weapons the West has been supplying Ukraine with, and then how much more they were going to send them, and how difficult it was going to be. So then, to save face, they withdrew from northern Kiev, and then now they're going back to the Donbass region, and Russia is now claiming that was what it was all about all along, rather than taking the entire country.
Yeah, and a little background, this guy right here, Russell, has been over there many times, right?
Well, yeah. Russell lived there in Ukraine for a bit. Ladies are kind of pretty and live like a king. When I went and visited him, perfect example. Well, actually,
I've also spent a fair amount of time in Russia too, but you can't say that because I might be a domestic terrorist if you've ever been to Russia.
Well,
there, yeah.
I was in Russia when it was the Soviet Union. Can you say that?
Oh, wow.
I think, God, I forgot so their average, this is 2017 when I visited Russell there, the average income for a Ukrainian, dang it, I forgot. I think it's $308 or $340 a month. I remember it was barely a gym membership for me in LA. and which equated to like $2,000 or $4,000 a year. I just remember we went out to dinner, and Russell was living in a 2-bedroom house in the city center of Kiev. We went to dinner. We probably drank 2 glasses each of red wine, had full big old steaks. I still have the picture, $9, probably included the tip.
It's cheaper now.
Well, so that was the reason this was 2017.
Yeah.
And a large part the reason Ukraine was so cheap right then is because in 2014 is where they had that revolution.
Yeah.
And if you look at a chart of their currency, like through 2014, it just completely plummeted against the dollar. So everything kind of got cheap if you're geographical arbitraging by having an income in dollars and spending
in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Very
someone
smart,
define
Russell.
arbitraging for me?
Arbitrage?
Yes.
Arbitraging? So
that's not arbitrating?
Arbitrating?
Arbitrage.
Geographical arbitrage. So I just use that word. So that's kind of
I don't know what it means, but I just used it.
Arbitration.
So the arbitrage trade would be to buy something cheap over here and sell that same thing over here, and it's done a lot in like the modern electronic trading, like in cryptocurrencies. Maybe not so much now, but let's say 3 years ago, especially 3 years ago. Like I had a buddy that was in South Korea, and they had the situation where the cryptocurrencies were like 10% higher there than they were in the rest of the world because they had some kind of like blockade. They had, so to get on the exchange, you basically had to be a proper citizen of Korea. So, but he was there and had a buddy that was there, and he had access to the exchange. So I was sending him Ethereum, and then so basically we were arbitrage trading in a way.
So it's buy low, sell high.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't.
Okay. Back in my day, it was jeans in Russia.
I don't have the ability to define arbitrage for you because my thinking brain went dead here.
I know. You see, that's
But-
one of the problems with having everything online.
Yeah.
It
You
can,
can
it
use
can
your
fail.
phone.
But right. But anyway, geographical arbitrage is kind of what digital nomads do, and it's where they'll have their income in a strong currency, and they'll live in a place with a weaker currency relative to theirs. So
That's great.
A lot of the
That's what you're
idea.
doing. You
Yeah.
go over there and have
My
these
bro-
$9 steaks.
Sure.
yeah, sure. That's
$9
yeah.
for 2
yeah,
steaks,
yeah, because
4
she's
wines.
Oh,
because she's
wow.
quoting the meal in dollars. I mean, obviously, I didn't pay dollars. I paid in
Yeah,
green.
sure.
So.
I went to Argentina once, and I loved that. 'cause
Oh,
it was-
inflation
it was
paradise! I still want to go there.
Oh, no, well, it was a long time ago, but still, it was 3-1, and yeah, wine and steak was $15, but still, it was a nice meal.
I want to go. I
I'm
always
sorry,
hear
I'm getting
about
it
that.
confused with Venezuela because that's where
Oh, no,
Russell
you
will be leaving us soon, and we'll have this technology where we're going to be phoning you in. But
You're going to
I think you're
Venezuela?
going to somewhere in South America next.
I don't have a flight booked.
You're
I don't
right.
know.
Sorry, he doesn't commit. I think we should do intros right now because I just want to make sure I catch it on camera.
Okay, yeah, before it goes dead.
Yeah, I don't have any jingle music. Sorry, I'm in the middle of hiring an epic guy to put a jingle with Alan Watts, but I do have this for us. Jesus Christ.
Well,
Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah.
Better start again with the volumes up now.
yeah.
Podcast.
Do it again with the volume up.
Well, it takes 2 of us to run this.
Quantum bomb.
There we go.
Oh yeah, welcome to the podcast. Okay, so I want to introduce everybody first. We've got 4 of us here. Probably be on the show on and off quite a bit, all 4 of us. You guys can edit and correct me after I'm done botching it, and even for myself, because I know you all wouldn't want to brag on yourselves. Okay, so Rex is here. He will only go by Rex because he does not want to be followed online.
You don't need to say anything. Just say I want to be Cher or Sting.
And, yeah, Rex is our history buff. He also has done quite a few years. How many years in the UXO industry?
12.
And, oh, yeah. And like myself, is a Hollywood person. He's spent time in Hollywood. He's a producer and actor. So on to my brother, Russell. I call him our futurist. So we've got Rex, the history buff. Russell's the futurist, but most in regards to technology, he's looking at me funny because he doesn't think he is, but yet he's living in Web 3 world where the rest of us are still in Web 2. What does that mean? We'll get to it later in the podcasts. He's also a crypto expert and a currency expert. I don't know. And what we were just saying, he lives abroad quite a bit like myself. To my right, it's my bestie, business bud, Matt. He's a chemist. He owns his own explosives company. He with the explosives company, he had a stint on Discovery, which I'm sure we'll talk on and off all about a lot, which was a very fake produced show, which got me into television producing, and I redid it much better. It's got the sizzle reel avail if anybody wants to see it. And Matt's not just your normal weapons guru guy. He's a hippie at heart. He likes hot springs, and he even likes to acquire land in far-off places where no one knows about and create leadership camps for entrepreneurial skills. Myself, I moved to LA. I was a
Who are
TV
you?
host, act. Oh, yeah, my name's Beth. Thank you, Rex. TV
Just
host.
Beth?
Just Beth. Oh, Beth Hagendorf. Thank you, Russell. I do go by my
If you
last
have
name.
a last name, it
Yeah.
would be .tv.
It's Beth.tv is my website, but Beth Hagendorf. Yeah, well, I'm the only one that gave my last name. Anyways, TV host and an actress in LA, got me into TV producing. Then now I'm still trying to sell a lot of TV shows. Meanwhile, I'm starting to produce stuff online, like, my YouTube channel with Beth Hagendorf. I talk all about spirituality, fun things like that. I love everything unseen. And now I'm starting to produce this podcast. That's us in a nutshell. So I'm a sociology major, got an inquisitive mind. I like to be analytical, so I will facilitate the podcast, keep us going with questions. That's about it. So I got a chemist, explosives dude, my smart brother, and Rex who loves technology and history.
And I think you need to explain that what UXO was.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
the
yeah,
good
well, y'all
point.
can do that now. I've talked enough. Y'all do.
Unexploded ordnance. armies make up messes and we clean them up.
Absolutely. So, proving grounds and bombs are shot. Things are exploded. Someone's got to go up behind it and make it safe again.
And that's
for people.
non-military, right? Yeah, I mean,
UXO is non-military.
Yeah.
EOD would be
Actually,
in military.
I think it's quite interesting to note that no one here is military, even though we probably have, everyone assumes that we have some type of military affiliation, or at least this guy does.
Well,
yeah, just
I've worked with a lot of them.
Texan. Yeah.
It doesn't take, all it really takes is a haircut to get that. Because when I have a fresh cut, I get that question more.
Well, you're also in shape.
Yeah,
Everywhere Matt goes,
unfortunately, if
you have short hair and you're in shape.
You're in the
Thank you for
military.
your service.
yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
I've had people try to buy my meals, my drinks, and I'm like, no, thank you. I mean, I appreciate, but no. I mean, it's really awkward. 'Cause like, look, I was never in the military. I had a guy chase me down in a parking lot once, say, "Sir, I just want to thank you for your service." I said, "Well, my service to myself. Thank you." But
I hope you didn't ruin his day.
What were you wearing
You
when
just
that
went along
happened?
with it, right?
green pants and a white T-shirt
Which is what he wears every day.
and my boots. Yeah.
No, he bought his first pair of jeans.
I know.
Yeah, I'm wearing jeans
He
right
talked
now.
about it, that he has 2 pairs now.
aren't they uncomfortable?
Not these. Actually,
They're Levi's.
they're like soft and worn in. And I actually like blue jeans if they're like this. I just can't stand this stiff blue, yeah.
Pre-washed.
Once you get away from jeans and get to like the stretchy pants, you never go back.
Well, and I've got those, and it's just hard. It is. But,
Well,
I like the James Dean look on my new electric bike. My new electric bike,
But I
James
have
Dean.
found that I'm wearing jeans right now, which I rarely do, but they're stretchy jeans.
Oh, we're dressed up for camera today. We brought out Sunday's best.
Have you ever seen me wearing jeans?
But they're not tight, though.
Right.
No. But like even the waist, I put the waist on there, like the waist stretches. I'm like, these are jeans.
Before, not to rope us back into like a more relevant topic, one thing I kind of got your take on the Russia-Ukraine war, but just, is that still going on? But I actually did want to hear what Rex has to say, just because you have a lot of historical knowledge about like how, because I mean, everything is like, basically you got to go all the way back to World War II to get the full story of what's going on today, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, answer that. Well, I was going to say, it also, again, brings me back to that military-industrial complex that I love how he explains. Because that started in World War II.
Well, that's you're talking about specifically between Russia and Ukraine.
Well,
Which, I vaguely know.
Germany. So my understanding is, did a part of Ukraine had to ally with Germany, and this is why Russia's calling Ukraine a bunch of Nazis. The reason they're trying to justify this war is they're denazifying.
Well, yeah,
Ukraine.
as every political party calls the opponent Nazis.
Not-
Everyone I disagree with is Hitler. That's the
No,
that's the-
okay. So that is true that in the culture war, everyone is calling their enemy Nazis. But what I'm saying is they're trying to say like they're actual pockets of Nazis that are still there because they're. Is it not history that a portion of them allied with Germany, Nazi Germany, for a time?
Russia should invade Argentina. Well, this is why I'm a history buff and not a historian. I don't know. I do not know about the history of that. What?
I'm just laughing because I love that you did ask me to be specific about that.
No,
He's
absolutely,
not
because a historian
he's a
study.
history
There's
buff.
stuff I've been interested in. I mean, I know basically the vagueness of the fact that those were all satellites. Russia buffered itself with all the countries around it. It took possession basically as a buffer between them and Germany in case they invaded again.
So I think a lot of thinking people in America have trouble trying to figure out who the good guys are, and the reason is because we just had 2 years of COVID where the media has been discredited, and now the media here in America is telling us, like, especially like CNN fawning over Zelensky, the president of Ukraine.
Oh, that
and
was
so if you're
obvious.
like, well, it's like whatever the media says, the opposite is true.
Well,
100%.
Yeah, right. So like a lot of people now, like that I know, are thinking that the Russians are the good guys only because the media is so discredited.
But
We
no,
don't
I
know.
think anytime someone says we're invading this country to get rid of Nazis, throw the BS flag. Just right there.
Well, first off, the virtue signaling was so strong too. So immediately my red flags went up, and I was like, okay, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like you said, overnight it was just like Ukraine, all of a sudden a country that no one's heard about, and I could say that because I've been there, guys. But yeah, all of a sudden, anyway, it was just a hard virtue signal from the media, and then you knew the narrative is. Well, I knew right away the military-industrial complex was, honestly, I felt like it was because they couldn't get the billions out of the vaccine, they had to switch quickly into something that could, and the military-industrial complex has been our go-to.
Well-
when are we going back to war?
Well, now we get all
We
the
went right away. Once
like
Biden got
America
in.
gets all the benefits of having a war by printing a bunch of money to fund weapons and the defense contractors without actually having to be in one. And so, they probably want to prolong this as long as they can. And I think supplying Ukraine with weapons is
It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Well, no, it prolongs the war though, and they're definitely they're not. You don't even hear anyone talking about peace agreements, which is scary.
Absolutely.
Like,
Because they
that's
want that shooting going on over there, and we keep making the stuff for them over there, but we don't have to do it.
But at least we don't have our
We
soldiers
don't have a
there.
problem
It's
doing
not like
it, though.
Afghanistan again, where we're losing our soldiers.
Well, okay, but we don't. Yeah, I mean, Afghanistan, Iraq. Like, apparently, we don't have a problem doing it, right? So, it's
Well, I don't know. What about the scale? This has the potential to turn into a lot of people.
But
How
isn't
many people
everyone
died?
backing up because of that?
Yeah,
Because
I think so.
Yes,
Because we don't want it to be World War III. It could be.
everyone. Yeah,
There wouldn't
mutually
be.
assured destruction,
Mm-hmm.
and what that means. Yeah, I think that's why most people.
Aren't in it because of the nuke.
Well, the
New
numbers I'm seeing of
capabilities and
dead
just-
Russians is up there.
Yeah, surprising.
Within
Yeah, it's big.
within 4 minutes, there's no reason to doubt Russia doesn't have what they say they
Yeah.
have with a nuclear submarine. I don't know if that's the correct term. Off the coast of LA, gonna wipe out all major cities in America within 4 minutes.
Yeah,
But-
so to be clear, if we did nuke war, it's basically like by
But
humanity.
but that doesn't mean Russia comes out unscathed. This is why it's called
Yes.
mutually assured destruction.
I'm the
Everybody
only-
dies.
I'm the only one old enough here to remember the Cold War. It's the fact of the matter is it was always, and as I pointed out to Matt, when's the last time a nuclear weapon was used in combat?
World War II.
Nagasaki. I mean, we've talked about this like it's just this instant thing. Go to the button, go to the button, go to the button. It's been Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and we've had them and we've got them, but no one's ever used them. It's not like an easy thing to go to. And there's no winner if they do.
What's crazy is when people think of nuclear weapons, they think of Nagasaki. Do you realize the technological improvements we have on nuclear weapons from them?
No comparison.
It's
I
like-
mean,
when
a
was that?
Nagasaki bomb is a detonator for a modern nuclear bomb. I mean, you need the Nagasaki bomb to cause the fission, the fusion to create the fission, which then is like 12,000 tons as opposed to 10 million tons for a modern
So when
bomb.
someone says tactical nukes, what does that mean to you?
Something small. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be smaller than the Nagasaki
Well,
bomb.
they do have a few suitcase devices that are suitcase size, and I want to say some are missing, so they don't know where they're at.
From where?
Who is they?
Well, it was Russia had them, we had them, and they're not accounted for. And by say they, I mean the world knows what the world has. So we supposedly know how many nukes that Russia has. They know how many we have, and we collectively know how many of these suitcase bombs are out there. But it's like, okay, there's 10, and you've got 2, and I've got 5. There's some missing, right? So where are they? You don't know.
I think so. I want to ask. You don't believe in mutually assured destruction?
I believe it's possible. I just don't think it's the knee-jerk. I mean, we were raised, the whole fear thing, growing up, it was right around the corner. It was right there. Any minute they were going to get us. And I just don't think it's that close. It's not as...
Because the ones that are going to push the button understand this is it. But you wonder, what if that guy's about to die?
And
What if he's got cancer?
So this has actually happened. I've heard this story so many different times, but basically, something on the radar triggered a Russian. I think it was a submarine with a nuke that they were supposed to launch their weapon because of a command they got based on something on radar, like an incoming nuclear warhead coming. I don't know what Mach
There has
5,
been close
Mach 10.
calls, yeah.
And the commander of that ship stopped it, actively said, no, we're not going to do that. And then it ended up being like a false reading, and we didn't all go to war just because this one guy said, no, we're not going to go through with that.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
I wish I could look that up right now, but yeah.
Wow.
No, I mean, there has been close calls. I mean, was it Hunt for Red October? The other one, Crimson Tide, that was based on supposedly a true.
So
incident.
can we rely on that every time for all of eternity.
Well, they've also put in safeguards since then. For instance, used to be submarine commanders had the supreme authority to do that. That is no longer the case.
So my question really is, if you look at the history of humanity and our behavior, especially if you consider like even native indigenous people, like we're fighting each other, right? Like they were with bows and arrows, they were fighting each other. So like we've always fought. There's never been a time where human beings, tribalism didn't happen and we all grouped together and fought each other. So if you assume we continue to behave in this manner for a long enough period of time with the weapons we have now, it's only a matter of time before like bam, we're like it triggers like the major nuclear exchange.
Well, thank God we have the aliens,
at
right?
least, well, no, this is why Elon's trying to get us off of Earth and onto Mars, so we have a backup of
Wait, okay, another thing. I got to throw this in there. It just went away like a fart in the wind. Years ago, I was on a movie set. It was a James Franco movie, The Long Home. And I think it came out in the news then that they realized that the radiation levels on Mars were too high. Like they said,
we're gonna have to live underground for sure.
Yeah, they said
it's an extremely difficult engineering challenge. Yeah, I mean, no one's doubting that. It's gonna be hell. I would want to go to Mars because it would be like the most adventurous thing you could do ever. But like just taking into account how beautiful Earth is relative to Mars, like I don't think I'll be going
underground.
You're laughing. Here. I don't think you realize like within our lifetimes, assuming we don't lose Elon, we're going there.
Okay, look. I've always said this before he was popular, before he was the richest man in the world from the Tesla stock. I've always wanted to marry him. My bone to pick with Elon is that he's literally trying to be like, I'm going to save humankind, so I'm going to try to get us to live on another planet. But if we just look to our friends in the East, I'm like, okay, these people can levitate, astral travel, talk to people like a radio signal as a human body. So I roll my eyes because the human body and the humans are capable of so much more. Like, we could probably go beam ourselves to live somewhere if we wanted to anyways, but yet we don't care to explore that.
You're missing the bigger picture of the inspiration of going to Mars and what that serves for humanity. Like, look at us. It makes you proud to be a human.
To Mars, though, as a human, like, without even needing a spaceship.
Well, but
that's what I think.
For people that don't have that ability, they need something more tangible in this dimension.
I know, and I guess I get the difference. I'm trying to do it like naturally through my own human abilities, whereas he's just trying to do it through technology. And I guess that's the separation of if we were married and we had those arguments in bed one night, that would be the type of crap we'd argue about. I've actually messaged that bridge to him years ago. Okay, but back to just to interject real quick, Matt had mentioned like, well, the aliens would save us from the nuclear war. Since we recorded half our podcast and didn't, I don't know if Matt made the second recording, was part of that documentary we discussed. The aliens did commune with us saying, we would help you in the event of a nuclear war by trying to save your planet. Basically, they would make sure that Earth survives.
I said, would they reduce it? They may not necessarily stop it completely.
They may not be able to stop it
completely. Okay, so
and also I want to address something you said. I mean, we've been fighting each other with bows and arrows since day one. But I mean, it used to be like, I shoot you with an arrow, I take your food. I mean, nukes is, I don't get anything out of it. We destroy it. We're gone.
Yeah.
So I think is the difference in that.
My airy fairy spiritual stuff. I was going to talk about this on a war show with you, Matt. One of the monks in the church had said, and of course I can't remember, but it was like an island off of the coast of France, pre-Jesus days. A guy owed another country 1 cent, and they went to war over that 1 cent for 80 years and lost like 55,000 or maybe more than that in lives of the war. And the moral of the story is you didn't really go to war over the 1 cent. You went to war over your nation's karma. And Abraham Lincoln understood nation's karma and war more than anybody, and he gave an epic speech about it. We'll talk more about it on my spirituality channel when I have Matt as a guest on. We talk about why God permits war.
I disagree with your comment about like their incentive to take their food, because like I would argue that there's probably tons of cases where indigenous peoples were both well fed on both sides and still went to like fight each other. Just tribalism, just territory.
Yeah, big enders and little enders.
So which would be more indicative of what we're doing now.
Well, sure. No, I just use food as an example. Like the fact of the matter is, one person defeated one tribe defeated the other tribe. There will be no winner in a nuclear state.
Okay, well then what I want to talk to you about is like after. So let's say 500 years ago, what was the goal of invading another country? What was the outcome, and what was the incentive?
Well, there's many different ones. Sometimes it was as simple as a king wanted a wife and wanted that specific one.
That's what I was thinking.
But sometimes it was land or wealth. I mean, there was always some incentive.
Wealth for the country or wealth for the elite?
Well, generally for the elite. I mean, they call for it, and then they whip up the.
Okay, so would you say in modern times, like we invaded Iraq, like we definitely didn't, and Afghanistan. So we're no longer. It doesn't seem like we have the traditional incentives anymore to invade. Like, so why does one country invade another in 2022?
Well, the spin on that is different. Usually, it's for instance, Iraq. Well, I mean,
I would say oil.
Weapons,
well, no. See,
fake weapons of mass destruction.
The purpose is oil. I mean, it was economic, but we had to protect. Kuwait was why we started that originally.
Or you're the cover story.
Well, that's what I mean. But of course, it's economic and it's about oil, but then again, I guess Kuwait was taken over, was it not? I mean, so we did actually free Kuwait, but then we stayed there for decades and decades, and we went back and got Saddam a second time, and then, of course, in 2001, it was all about retribution for 9/11, which was the whole Afghanistan business. But
it was totally a revenge war. If we ever,
sure.
I mean, God, it was so obvious.
I'm sorry.
No. Actually, keep going, Rex. Keep rewinding back, because I'm going to have you explain to us
how
the military-industrial complex was born. Because we hear the word a lot, but no one ever really realizes. Like, I don't even think it's constitutional. Our or whatever you call them, founding fathers, didn't even intend for us to have a military to this capacity.
Which we never did until World War II. And that was what it goes back to, because the founding fathers feared a standing army, because they knew a tyrant could use that army to subjugate the people. So that's why a well-regulated militia is in the Second Amendment. It's a militia of people, and it's well-regulated. And that's why the people get confused with the Second Amendment.
Regulated by whom?
Well, I mean, but
the people or the government?
By the people. But the fact of the matter is that the people, the people like the right to keep and bear arms, that's a whole other show, shall not be infringed. But we need a militia, but they need to keep an eye on the militia, because we want them under control. And basically, it's the people having arms that can regulate the militia. But that's a whole other subject.
And I want to throw this out there, too, because the word regulate, words over a couple hundred years tend to move around a little bit.
Oh, man.
Regulate could be you regulate yourself, as in you're disciplined. You're training every day. The freedoms that they provided us, or the freedoms that we have, are not granted to us by a government. They're just recognized by the government. But in order to maintain those, it requires that we be disciplined as individuals. That responsibility doesn't lay on some organization or somebody with a badge and a uniform. It's you as an individual taking pride in having discipline. And I think that could go with regulated, that it is a militia that is well regulated, well disciplined. You don't just pass out a bunch of guns to people that are not disciplined, because you do, what's going to happen?
Ukraine.
Chaos. But you got an enemy right there. So what I'm getting at is, I always hear this gun control argument. We can't get into that on this one, but they make it sound like people that have never had guns are getting guns. We grew up with guns.
Absolutely.
They were in the house as a child. My grandfather, great-grandfather, we have weapons that have been passed down from generation. We grew up with them. We have been disciplined with them since we were children. So that is well-regulated. It is not helter-skelter. We don't have guns just pointing everywhere, shooting holes in the roof, the chaos that people tend to believe when it comes to firearms. So when I hear that you should have a well-regulated militia, I'd really like to dig into that a little bit deeper, because they will take that as, regulated. See, government regulating it. Well, what is the point of a militia that defends the liberties, but it's regulated by the tyrant who takes your liberties? That doesn't make any sense.
But it's not. I mean, I think I've always taken the Second Amendment as two parts. A well-regulated militia, almost put in the word, unfortunately, necessary for the common defense. The people, the shall not, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's almost kind of like they're the ones that are, like you said, self-regulating. And it doesn't say a standing military necessary for the common defense.
Yeah.
It says a
Yeah.
militia. That's the armed populace.
Are you
So
are
we
you
were
able
not
to quote
intended
it?
to have a military, just a well-regulated militia.
We're talking about the Second Amendment, and no one's actually quoted it. Are you able to actually quote
I
it?
think that's pretty much, isn't it? A well-regulated militia necessary for the common defense, comma, the people.
The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Yeah, most
It's
people
pretty
don't
simple.
know that.
You
at
guys
all.
are
Yeah.
true Texans. I'm so impressed.
We're Americans. But anyway, I didn't
sorry,
mean to go off
Americans.
on the tangent. But
What's the 11th
well,
Amendment?
Oh, jeez.
I don't. Well, they don't matter after 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number one is you can say anything you want because we got guns.
So, yeah,
It's
exactly.
inside jokes don't
Well,
go
number
over so
one's
well.
good, yeah.
'Cause I don't even get it. No one else is.
Well, that's not really an inside joke.
What?
We all know the First and Second Amendment. After that, it's just kind of
He's
like
Oh, I
joking
see. Okay,
that
I
no one
got you, I
does
got
the
you.
11th
You can
Amendment.
say
but-
what you want.
So I want to bring us up to how we basically birthed the military-industrial complex, which
Well-
I believe is the reason that we've had so many. I mean, wars, the nastiest.
tell you.
Well, the example I was going to say was that after every war, we would disband the military. We would build up a military, disband the military. If you even go to the Spanish-American War in 1898, you've all heard of Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders. The Rough Riders was a band that he financed of his own resources and put together. It wasn't like even military. It was like, hey, let's get together and go fight for the country. Yeah. It was that kind of a casual thing. And then World War I, we were very weak, but we built this huge army, and then we defeated Germany over in Europe. Well, not alone, but we were the ones that went over and did it. But then after we disbanded so much that within a short span between 1918 and then
36.
well 39 is when it began, but when the war started, we were 19th in the world militarily. That's how far down we were.
Amen. Let that sink in, everybody.
Yeah, we were
Let it sink in,
19th.
because wait till you see where we're at now.
Well, that's the thing.
19th in the world.
So, well, once the war started, which is why UXO, primarily what we cleaned up now was World War II stuff. And that was because we just took millions of acres of land and built this massive army, the biggest, our most powerful army in the world in 4 years. But for the first time in our history, we didn't disband it when the war ended.
because it's a moneymaker.
Well, see, that's the thing. Everyone says,
Yeah.
what got us out of the Depression? It wasn't the New Deal policies. It was World War II. They pumped and they went,
Women
crap.
were working in the munition factories. Everybody
They
had a
said-
purpose and a
I-
cause to
I
get
hate that
behind.
narrative.
well, which one? The New Deal or the World
That
War
we
II?
tax people and then put it into unproductive things like making weapons, and then somehow that got us out of a bad economic situation.
Well, it's like it certainly had the appearance to. We certainly boomed, and then came
Yeah.
the halcyon and wealthy days of the 50s. But the fact is, they've said, hey, you know what? If we keep ourselves at war all the time, we're always going to be making all this money.
Well, printing money from and taxing us. So I think it's important to note. So we never disbanded our military after World War II, and now
Shrunk it.
and we've made sure there was always at least something. There was Korean War, then came Vietnam, and then there's little respites.
Yeah.
And then there's always something to go on to go fight.
Dang
Well,
it,
because of
it's-
this narrative, also, we're like, anytime we have a recession, we're like, oh man, we need a war because that fixes everything.
Well, that's what
Actually,
what they do.
I'm going to pull up what our current. I had it in my notes from another video I made. Our current war budget. I think it's because Biden just upped it another 10%. But you take the next 11 countries or 10 countries, add them all together, you're still nowhere near what we're spending now.
Yeah, you're
And-
pretty.
And the best thing anybody can do is go to Rand Paul's Evictus reports, and you'll see. I think we wasted $52 billion last year of our taxpayers' money, and it's on like ridiculous things. Like one year they had like lizards on the treadmills. The next year they actually did fish on treadmills. And you think I'm joking, but like Babylon Bee does excellent like Q&As on, did we really spend our money on this? And it's insane. We actually are spending money on like the most
Just
ridiculous things.
random thing to throw in here.
Yeah.
I just saw, I think Joe Rogan put it up in the news today. 4 men arrested for, I don't even know how you do this. 4 men arrested for raping an endangered monitor lizard and then killing it and eating it. Have you ever seen the asshole of a lizard? How do you do that?
How do you know it might have been a female lizard?
Oh, okay, the vag of a lizard.
Oh.
Have you ever seen one?
I can't say as
All
I've
right.
ever
Not
looked.
any better.
No, it's not going to work. What?
Could have been oral.
Oh. But what? No, you know,
All right,
we
I
do
think
just need to go to nuclear war and
I
get
think
this
I
over
got
with.
It's
our
true.
war
We
budget.
don't deserve to live.
Just to bring it back, our war budget each year, guys, is $750 billion. And I think the next country is $50 billion. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
I just need one.
So I don't know. My safety isn't that important to me. Like, I actually would rather be like, oh, sorry, we're unarmed. We're like the days when we were with Indians. We got some guns. We got some militia. And we're going to war. Like, I would much rather us not spend $750 billion. I just don't even want to spend on war. Like, life isn't that bad. Like, if we went off to war, we had some crummy, put together army, I'd be just fine with it. Of course, I am female saying this.
It's not about.
You're going to be out there with us?
And I am one of those traditional girls, too. I don't.
Well, we could call in an
definitely-
airstrike, but we have a bow and arrow. I guess this is it, Beth.
Anyway, didn't mean to get off topic. But
Yeah, what's our time right now?
The industrial complex thing just really grinds me. All right, let's. So actually, just 68 minutes because.
But we're at 5 after.
Yeah,
8:35.
it's 68 recorded minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, so the show's
90
only an hour
total
long
minutes.
right now.
Yeah, I think we ought to put the landing gear down.
Let's wrap.
All right. Well,
Yeah, we covered aliens.
once again, I don't have any cool outro music. I'm still in the middle of hiring epic music artists off Fiverr.
I mean, that kind of sums up the
that sums
topics
up the
today. A
show.
lot of conspiracy stuff.
We need the nuclear.
All
part.
right. Oh, yeah. So let's talk about where you could follow Rex nowhere. He doesn't need you or wants you following him. Russell.
You can follow me on Instagram. That's my Web2 platform of choice. Russell Hagendorf, spelled the same as her last name.
Yeah.
No relation.
Actually, I'm glad you brought up Web 2. So we do plan
Coincidence.
to stream these shows eventually live. We'll be on Web 2 and Web 3. So all you geeks out in the future on Web 3, we're going to join you there. You could stream us biddies and Satoshis while we're talking. Oh, Matt, that's good. I was saying kind of a quite snobby statement. I'm glad you muted me. Matt, where can people find you
I
and
didn't
follow you?
mute you.
Oh, okay.
I was turning the volume up of
Russell's leaving.
that.
Russell's got to go potty. Thank you, Russell.
See you, buddy.
What, Matt?
Impresario Camp on Instagram.
All right. And impresariocamp.com.
Yeah. So Impresario Camp is a location out in West Texas, about 25 miles north of Terralingua. And we have a Quonset hut out there that we've converted into a lodge. Doesn't take a lot of people. It'll hold about 16 folks. And you can rent it for anything you want. And apparently after this podcast, you can rent it to commune with aliens if you like. I will give you everything you need.
Yeah, you could. You can find me, all of my handles on all of social medias. Web 2 and Web 3 is Beth Hagendorf. And my website's beth.tv. I'm not wearing a retro shirt, but you could support me by buying any of my cool retro tees. I'll continue to pump out designs, probably one a week. They are all spiritual based, and I've got some cool bombs away, bombshell weapon based kind of merch as well, just because I hang out with these guys. I don't actually really enjoy shooting guns that much, contrary to the image I project online.
Well, we don't either. We don't have time for it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, you talking about edits?